Good morning, friends. Myself, Dr. Nidhi Darbari, on My Education Treasure. In my previous video, I had discussed about writing instructional objectives in objective writing skill in micro teaching. Today, in my present video, I am going to discuss about the components of objective writing skill. Components of objective writing skill. Student oriented. An objective should indicate the desired end product, not merely a direction of change. Objectives should be with respect to learning outcomes, meaning the result or the end product of instruction. Learning outcome refers to the various domains and levels of learning, cognitive, affective, and psychomotor. A behavioral objective, which is student oriented, places the emphasis upon what the student is expected to do, not upon what the teacher will do. Sometimes teacher uses instructional goals which emphasize what they are expected to do rather than what they expect of their students. Such teacher oriented objectives only have the value to the extent that they direct the teacher to do something which ultimately leads to student learning. A teacher attempting to help his or her students attain the goal of solving long division problems may work out some of the problems on the blackboard, explaining each of the steps involved. A teacher oriented objective associated with this behavior might be to explain the steps of long division on the blackboard. This might be helpful teacher activity, but it is only one of the many possible activities that could help the student reach the goal of solving long division. The second component of objective writing skill is observable. The evaluation of learning outcome hinges on the ability to observe those outcomes. The key to an observable objective is an observable verb. Consequently, when selecting behavioral objectives for use in teaching, watch the verbs. The verb must describe an observable action or an action that results in an observable product. The term student performance implies what the student is going to do or perform at the end of the instruction. A behavior is any performance, action, or operation. All behaviors cannot be observed directly, example, thinking, knowing, and understanding. Certain behaviors can be observed directly, like naming, classifying, and describing. Instead of this objective, the student will be able to understand the three laws of reflection. The teacher should frame it like the student will tell an example of their own for each of the three laws of reflection. Clearly stated and understandable is the third component of objective writing skill. Objectives should be well stated. It should involve communication clearly without any ambiguity and misinterpretation. The first prerequisite for a clear and understandable objective is explicitness. It should contain a clearly stated verb that describes a definite action or behavior and in most cases should refer to an object of that action. People observing the product of this behavior should agree in their judgment about whether the behavior had occurred. Determining the minimum level of the students. It may indicate the minimum level in terms of accuracy to be attained in student performance, number of correct responses that would be accepted for the objective to be achieved. The term minimum is used because the teacher will not expect all the students to achieve the same level as there are individual differences. Describing learning outcomes. The next important thing to keep in mind is that we are interested in what the student will learn to do. It is the learning outcome that is important, not the learning activities that should lead to that outcome. Objective should reflect outcome language rather than process phrases. specification of the meaningful condition in which the student performance occurs. It is specified that the student will be doing. When the objective is achieved, it is not clear what the condition the behavior will be occurring. For example, given the textbook to refer, given the list of scientists, given an outline of the map, given the value of A and B, can refer to the class note, given the main points, given the situation. From a list of planets, the student will be able to locate the 5 nearest to the sun, etc. Evaluation sheet of objective writing skill. It is on the basis of evaluation sheet a decision is taken regarding the teaching and reteaching. This is a 7-point scale bearing 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is used recording that which component of the skill has been used frequently. Marking 0 means that the component of the skill was completely absent in the process of the lesson. Marking 1, 2, 3, 4 means the component is normal in the skill. Similarly, marking 5, 6, 7 depicts the maximum presence of the respective component in the process of the lesson. Now, the pattern of evaluation sheet for objective writing skill is the student is supposed to write the name of this teacher, the class which he is going to teach, date, subject which he is going to teach, topic of the lesson, period in which he is teaching, time duration of the lesson, and the name of the supervisors. In the table below, on one side you are supposed to write the components of the objective writing skill, and on the other side frequencies are to be written, that how many times the skill was used, like student oriented skill, observable skill, clearly stated and understandable skill, determining the minimum levels of student skill, describing learning outcome skill, and specification of the condition in which the student's performance occurs. If you found the video to be informative and interesting, I request you all to please give a like to the video to motivate me, share it with others, and subscribe it so that whenever I upload a new video, you will get a notification. Here I have made a micro lesson plan of objective writing skill. In this, the student teacher is supposed to write the name of the teacher, class which he is going to teach, date, subject. In this, I have taken science, topic I have taken heat transmission, period which he is going to teach, duration of the teaching, and name of the supervisor. Now in the table below, I have made 2 columns, one depicting the objectives and one depicting the components of the skill. In the objectives, I have first discussed the knowledge objective, in which I have asked the students that the student will be able to tell the 3 methods of heat transmission from one place to another. The component which is used is student oriented and correlation between the objectives and content. The second point which I had taken, that the student will be able to give at least 2 examples of conduction, convection, and radiation. The components over here are observable and describing learning outcomes. The next point which I have taken is the student will be able to describe how heat is transmitted on nature. The component over here is student oriented and clarifying the behavioral situation in clear words. The next point which I have taken is the student will be able to give at least 2 examples of conduction, convection, and radiation of heat transmission in their daily life. The components are the observable and determining the minimum levels of the students. The next point is understanding. The student will be able to describe how conduction, convection, and radiation of heat is transmitted in solid, liquid, and gas form. The components over here are student oriented and clarifying the behavioral situation in clear words. The next point is the students will be able to differentiate the methods of heat transmission, conduction, convection, and radiation. The components are the observable and correlation between the objectives and the content. The next point is the student will be able to tell why the cold or hot liquid kept in thermos flask remains hot or cold for a long time. This is again a student oriented and it describes the learning outcomes. The next point is the application part. The student over here will be able to tell on the basis of conductivity whether it is a good conductor or bad conductor of heat when they are given two things. Here the components are student oriented and observable correlation between the objectives and the content. The next point is the student will be able to compare the conductivity when they are given copper, iron and brass. This is again student oriented observable behavior describing learning outcomes. And the last point is the student will be able to do the experiment of convection current in water and draw the diagram. This is again student oriented and observable behavior. Thank you very much for patiently watching the video and don't forget to subscribe.